Hello everyone, Mason here. How are you doing? It's time for another book review, and this time, it's a ghost story. This is my spoiler-free review of The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James, first published on the 18th of February 2020. On the 29th of November 1982, in a small town called Fell, New York, 20-year-old Vivian Delaney goes to work the night shift at the Sundown Motel. It's a quiet place that doesn't get many customers. Vivian clocks in, but later that night, she disappears without a trace. Her belongings are still there. It's like she vanished into thin air. It's a quiet disappearance. There are no witnesses. It takes 4 days for anybody to notice that she's missing. It gains very little media coverage, and nobody ever sees Vivian Delaney again. In 2017, 35 years after Vivian's disappearance, her niece, true crime enthusiast Carly Kirk, arrives in Fell. Moving into the very apartment where Vivian once lived, she's determined to find out the truth. What happened to Vivian Delaney? How does a woman simply cease to exist? Did she leave of her own accord? Was she murdered? In either case, why did that happen? What's the truth behind the mysterious reputation of the Sundown Motel? Carly Kirk wants answers, and she's going to find them. So that's what the Sundown Motel is about, and honestly, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think I've made it pretty clear for those of you who've been around for a while, but if you're new here, you need to understand, I am not the intended audience for this book. Usually, I run as fast as possible in the opposite direction when ghosts are involved. But the Sundown Motel was so highly rated, I went out on a limb, and it was so good that it reeled me in. I may not be a fan of the supernatural, but I am a fan of mystery, and Simone St. James balances the two sides of the story incredibly well, in my opinion. We follow Viv in 1982, during the months leading up to her disappearance, and we follow Carly in 2017. Each woman has her own mystery that they're trying to uncover. Carly obviously wants to find out the truth of what happened to Viv. And as for Viv, well, I can't talk about the mystery that she's trying to uncover because of spoilers, but let me tell you, I found it so gripping. Of the two, I found myself much more invested in Viv's storyline, and in Viv as a character. Don't get me wrong, by no means is Carly a bad character. I actually found how emotionally invested she is in finding out what happened to Viv quite endearing, but Viv jumps off the page and shines as what I think will be quite a memorable character. I love the dedication and determination that she shows throughout the story. She's quite a young woman, and in a lot of ways she's naive and innocent, but honestly, she puts in more detective work than full-on cops in police procedurals as she digs into the mystery she's trying to solve. She goes through mounds of paperwork trying to put clues together. She makes phone calls where she uses fake voices to get people to talk to her. She goes even further than that, but it's too spoilery to say much else. She shows bravery and empathy, and as the story unfolded and I got closer and closer to the night she disappears, I found myself feeling actually worried about her. There are quite a lot of similarities between the events of 1982 and 2017, but rather than it being through a lack of skill, I definitely think that Simone St. James does this intentionally to prove a point. On multiple occasions, Carly makes reference to the fact that it feels like there's no difference between the two time periods, that she's walking the same path as Viv, that what happened to her aunt could easily happen to her. And in the past, as Viv is digging into her own mystery, she feels the exact same way about other people. I definitely think that Simone St. James is trying to make a statement that nothing ever changes. Whether it's 1982 or 2017, the same things happen over and over again, and nobody ever stops them. The two timelines unfold in tandem, with clues being uncovered in each. Both women getting closer and closer to their goals at the same time, the tension being ramped up. It leaves very little space for the pace to slow down. As for the supernatural elements, there are some truly creepy scenes, with all the good stuff that you expect from a ghost story. Footsteps and flickering lights, doors opening on their own, that sort of thing. But the deeper you get into the plot, as you start to learn why it's all happening, I would say that it's more intriguing and packed with emotion than it is horrifying, which is amazing coming from somebody like me. Honestly, I enjoyed almost everything about this book. The setting of Fell as this quiet town with a mysteriously troubled past. The characters, not just Viv and Carly, but the supporting characters too. There aren't many of them, but they're all interesting. The mystery was not just gripping and suspenseful, but surprisingly emotional. The supernatural was creepy, but intriguing enough that I needed to know what was happening and why it was happening. My one complaint is that everything feels like it gets wrapped up very, very quickly at the end. Like one of those times when an author has told the story that they want to tell and now they know they need to end it, so they end it. It felt just a little bit rushed. You get all this suspense and then you get to the last few chapters and everything goes 100 miles an hour, which isn't necessarily as good as it sounds. Something quite climactic happens totally off screen, and I understand that that is so we can have unanswered questions, but I feel like it would have been very, very cool if we'd have been present for it, and I felt just a little bit robbed. That's just a small criticism though, and overall it really didn't affect my enjoyment of the story because the rest of it was so good. I would definitely recommend this book, but I also feel a little bit confused. If someone like me can read this book, I do wonder what hardcore horror fans would think of it. Would it be too tame for someone like that? I don't know, I honestly don't. But either way, I think if you're a thriller fan, you should read this. If you're a ghost fan, you should try this. And either way, I hope you enjoy it as much as I did, because I had a genuinely good time with it. Before I ask my question, I thought I'd leave you with a little story from last year when I was convinced to watch The Haunting of Bly Manor by my partner. There's a scene where a ghostly hand is moving along a bed. It reaches out for someone. The music is tense, it's building, I'm terrified, I'm biting my nails, I know that there's a jump scare coming, and then the microwave pings because my dinner's ready, and it completely shatters the tension. My question for today is this: if you were in a horror story, at what point would you just leave? I hope that you've enjoyed today's review. If you have, the like and subscribe buttons are just sitting there waiting to be pressed. Now press them. Or else what? You don't want to find out, mate. If you want to get in touch, say hi and have a chat, you know where the comments section is. And the link to my Twitter is in the description. Thanks ever so much for spending time with me today, guys. Until next time, take care. For now, I'm off, and you should have a good one.